The strange night. It was a quiet night in the small town. The streets were empty, the lamps gave a soft yellow light, and the world seemed to be asleep. Inside a small house at the edge of the street, a man sat alone. He liked nights like this. No noise, no trouble. Just silence and peace, but peace never lasts forever. The man heard a sound. At first he thought it was only the wind pushing against the window. But then it came again, soft scratching like nails on wood. He frowned. It was close. Too close. The sound was coming from the front door. His heart gave a quick beat. In this quiet town, nothing strange ever happened. People locked their doors at night, but only out of habit. There was no crime here, so who or what was outside? He stood up slowly, listening again. Scratch. Scratch. Then a soft tap, like a child's hand knocking. The man's first thought was a cat, maybe even a stray dog looking for food. But something about the sound felt wrong. It was too careful, too human. He stepped to the door and placed his hand on the knob. He hesitated for a moment. A strange thought entered his mind. Don't open it. But curiosity is stronger than fear. He unlocked the door and pulled it open. The night air was cold. The street was empty. At first he saw nothing. Then he looked down. A small figure stood there. It was a girl, but not like any girl he had seen before. Her skin was pale, almost glowing under the moonlight. Her hair was thin and silver like threads of light, and her eyes, large, round, and shining, looked far too big for her face. She was no taller than his waist, small and fragile like a child. But there was something about her that felt not human. She held something in her tiny hands. A bottle, an empty bottle. She looked up at him, her lips trembling, and spoke a single word. Milk. The man froze. He had expected a thief, maybe even a prank, but this, a strange little girl at his door in the middle of the night asking for milk? It made no sense. Milk, she said again, louder this time. Her voice was soft, almost musical, but desperate. He opened his mouth to ask questions. Who are you? Where did you come from? Where are your parents? But none of those words came out. He only stared at her glowing eyes. They were pleading, begging. Finally he nodded. Wait here, he said softly. He stepped back inside, leaving the door half open. His kitchen was dark, but he knew where the fridge was. He opened it and pulled out a carton of milk. When he turned back to the door, he almost dropped it. The girl was no longer standing outside. She was inside. She had walked past the door without a sound. She now stood in the middle of his living room, still holding the empty bottle, staring at him. He didn't remember inviting her in. He didn't hear her footsteps. She just appeared. Milk, she whispered again, lifting the bottle. He tried to stay calm. His mind told him something was wrong, but his heart felt pity. She looked weak, her hands shaking as if she had no strength left. Slowly, he poured milk from the carton into her bottle and handed it back. The girl grabbed it with surprising speed. She drank. She drank as if she had never tasted water before. Every gulp made a soft sound in the quiet house. The milk went down fast, almost too fast. He watched in silence. With each swallow, her glow seemed to grow brighter. Her cheeks filled with color, her eyes shone more. It was like she was charging herself with energy. When she finished, she lowered the bottle. For a moment, she only breathed heavily, milk drops running down her chin. Then slowly, she looked up at him again. Her lips curved into a small smile. More, she said. The man felt a chill run down his back. This was not normal. No child drinks like that. No child glows like that. Who was she? What was she? He thought of asking her, but something in her eyes stopped him. Those eyes did not belong to a human child. They belonged to something else, something older, something dangerous. The room was silent again, but the silence felt heavier than before. He realized he was standing alone in his home, with something he could not understand, and she was staring at him, waiting, her bottle stretched out again. More. The night was no longer quiet. The night was no longer peaceful. The man's life had just changed forever. First contact. The little alien girl stood in the man's living room, her strange bottle pressed tight in her hands. The man still held the milk carton, frozen in place. Her last word echoed in his ears. More. He swallowed hard. The glow around, her skin was stronger now, faint but visible like moonlight shining from inside her body. She looked up at him with wide, unblinking eyes. It was not the stare of a child. It was sharper, deeper, like she was studying him. He poured more milk into the bottle, almost without thinking. She snatched it back and drank again, her throat moving quickly as she swallowed every drop. When she finished, she let out a small sigh, as if the milk was more than food. It was life itself. For a moment, silence returned. The man placed the empty carton on the table. He wanted to ask questions, but where would he even begin? The girl was a mystery that didn't fit into words. Finally, he spoke. Who are you? The girl tilted her head. For the first time, her lips moved into something like a smile. It was strange, not warm, but not cruel either. Just curious. Not who. She whispered slowly, as if learning the words. What? Her voice was soft, but every syllable felt heavy in the air. What? The man repeated. The girl tapped her chest with one small finger. Not human. The man's stomach tightened. He had already guessed it, but hearing her say it made it real. She was no ordinary lost child. She was something else. Something from outside. Before he could speak again, the girl stepped closer. Her feet made no sound on the floor. She moved like a shadow, smooth and careful. She reached up, her tiny hand brushing against his arm. Her touch was cold at first, but then warm like a battery heating in his skin. The man flinched. Why milk? He asked quickly, pulling his arm back. Her eyes blinked slowly, glowing brighter. Fuel, she said. My body needs it. Without it I break. With it I live. He frowned. Fuel? Milk is food, not fuel. She shook her head. Her thin silver hair caught the light, almost sparkling. For you, food. For me, power. The words hung in the room like smoke. Power. The man thought of how her skin had glowed brighter after drinking. He thought of how fast she had grown in just minutes. She was not only surviving, she was changing. How did you get here? He asked carefully. The girl's expression shifted. Her eyes darted toward the dark window, then back at him. Her tiny body stiffened like a frightened animal. Running, she whispered. They follow me. The man's chest grew tight. Who? But she didn't answer. Instead, she looked back at the empty bottle and raised it again. More, she said firmly. This time he shook his head. No, not yet. You tell me first. Who is following you? For the first time her eyes narrowed. She looked less like a helpless child and more like something else. Something that could decide whether to trust him or not. Her glowing gaze locked on him, silent, unblinking. The man forced himself not to look away. He had no idea what this girl really was, but he knew one thing. The moment he kept giving without answers, he would lose control. At last, the girl lowered the bottle. Her voice came out like a breath. Hunters. The word was simple, but it carried weight. Hunters of what? Hunters of her kind? Hunters of things like her? The man's skin crawled. Where are they? He asked. The girl's lips trembled. Close. Smell me. Feel me. They do not stop. Always follow. A shiver ran down his spine. He glanced at the window. The night outside was still, but now it felt wrong, too still, as if something was waiting out there, watching. The girl stepped, closer again, clutching the bottle like a child clutching a toy, but her eyes were no longer soft. They carried a strange light, sharp, knowing, dangerous. You gave me milk, she said. Her voice was firmer now, the tone less like a child and more like a promise. Now, you are mine. The man froze. The words hit him harder than anything before. Yours? He repeated slowly. She nodded once. Mine. My human. My safe. He almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. How could he be safe if she was the danger? And yet, something inside him felt bound already. Maybe it was fear. Maybe pity. maybe curiosity. But he knew deep inside, he could not turn her away. The girl tilted her head again, eyes glowing brighter than before. More, she whispered one last time, softer now. The man looked at the empty milk carton on the table, then back at her. His hands trembled. He was caught between two choices: give her more, or stop before she became something he could not control. But deep down, he knew the truth. The choice was no longer his. The girl had already chosen for him. The strange night was only the beginning. The strange changes, the night stretched on, heavy and silent. The man sat in his living room watching the small alien girl sit on the floor with her empty bottle. Her silver hair caught the dim light, and her glowing eyes never looked away from him. The carton of milk on the table was already finished. She had drained it so fast that he still felt dizzy watching her drink. Now she sat still, breathing slow, almost calm. But something about her was not the same anymore. At first he thought it was only his imagination. But then he noticed it. She was taller. When he had first seen her at the door, she had barely reached his waist. Now sitting on the floor, she looked different. Her arms seemed longer, her thin frame not as fragile as before. It was a change too fast, too unnatural. The man rubbed his eyes. "This isn't possible," he whispered to himself. The girl tilted her head. "Possible," she said softly, as if reading his thought. "Milk changes me." Her voice was stronger now. Less weak, less trembling. The words came out clearer, sharper, with a strange rhythm. He leaned back in his chair. "Changes you? How?" She smiled, if that strange curve of her lips could be called a smile. "Grow, strong, alive." The man felt unease rising in his chest. Milk was food for humans. For her, it was something far more dangerous. It was fuel, it was growth, it was evolution. Her eyes glowed brighter in the dark room. The light pulsed faintly, as if her body carried some hidden energy. The man's lamps flickered once, then steadied. He stared at the bulb above. Was her body really affecting the electricity? He swallowed hard. "How much do you need?" Her answer was quick. "More." The word was the same, but the tone was different now. Not begging, not pleading, demanding. He stood up, moving toward the kitchen. His fridge had one more carton of milk inside. He opened the door and pulled it out, but his hand shook. Should he really give it to her? Every sip seemed to change her into something unknown. But then he glanced at her again. She sat there on the floor, her bottle ready, her eyes fixed on him like a predator watching prey. She would not take no for an answer. With a slow breath, he poured more into her bottle and handed it back. She drank again, faster than before. Each gulp sounded louder in the quiet house, like the ticking of a clock counting down to something inevitable. The man's skin prickled as he watched. Her body shifted ever so slightly. Her thin arms filled out, her small shoulders straightened. Her glowing skin brightened until the whole room seemed to carry her light. He almost had to shield his eyes. Then it stopped. The bottle was empty again. She lowered it, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand like any child would. But she no longer looked like a child. Her eyes met his. They were wider, sharper, more aware, "You see?" she said softly. The man nodded, his throat dry. "Yes, I see." She tilted her head, studying him. "Afraid?" He hesitated, then gave a weak laugh. "Should I be?" Her glowing eyes blinked once, slow and steady. "Not if you stay mine." A shiver ran down his spine. Her words were simple, but the way she said them, firm, unshaken, made it clear. She didn't see herself as the one in danger. She saw him as hers. Suddenly the lights flickered again. This time the lamp above them went dark for 2 long seconds before sparking back to life. The man's heart jumped. "What are you doing?" he asked quickly. The girl shook her head. "Not me, my body. Too much energy." Spills out, her small hand touched the floor. For a second, the wood beneath her fingers glowed faintly as if lit from within. Then the glow faded. The man took a step back. "You're leaking power?" She nodded once. "Yes, I cannot stop." Not yet. The thought chilled him. If a simple drink of milk gave her this much strength, what would happen if she kept drinking? Would she burn his whole house down without meaning to? The girl's eyes turned to the window. Her glow reflected on the glass, and for a moment he thought he saw movement outside. A shadow, quick and silent. The girl whispered, "They are close." The man's blood ran cold. "The hunters?" She nodded again. "They smell me. They follow my change." They will not stop. The man looked at her, at the way her body glowed stronger now, at the way she had grown taller in just minutes. She was not helpless anymore. Maybe she was strong enough to fight. But maybe, he thought, she was becoming the very danger the hunters were chasing. The girl turned back to him, her bottle still clutched tight in her small hand. More, she whispered again. The word was soft, but this time it was not a request. It was a command, and the man realized with a sinking heart that his house was no longer his own. Something had entered it. Something small, glowing and growing stronger with every drop of milk, and it was only the beginning. Her true nature, the man had stopped counting the hours. The night stretched endlessly, and the air inside the small house felt heavier with each passing minute. The alien girl no longer looked weak. Her glow filled the room like soft moonlight, and her silver hair shimmered with every small movement. She sat on his couch now, her bottle resting on her lap. Her eyes followed him everywhere he moved. He felt like a mouse under the stare of a cat. Finally, he gathered the courage to ask the question that burned inside his mind. "What are you?" The girl tilted her head, blinking slowly. For a long moment she said nothing. Then her lips moved. "Traveler." The word was small, but it carried weight. "Traveler from where?" he asked, his voice tight. Her glowing eyes shifted toward the window to the stars hidden by the night sky. She raised a thin finger pointing upward. "From far," she whispered. "Too far for you to see. A place with no name for your tongue." The man stared at her. She spoke in broken words, but her meaning was clear. "She was not from Earth. Why are you here?" he asked softly. The girl looked back at him. Her expression for the first time seemed heavy with sadness. Crash, shipbreak, fire alone, his chest tightened. He could picture it. A ship falling through the sky, flames tearing it apart, leaving her stranded here with nothing but an empty bottle. "Then who are the hunters?" he asked. The girl's body stiffened. She lowered her gaze and her hands gripped the bottle tightly. The glow around her dimmed slightly, as if even speaking about them drained her. "Not my people," she said at last. "Other ones. They follow. Always follow. They want me." "Why?" the man asked, her eyes lifted, glowing sharp again. "Because of what I am." He took a step closer, his voice quiet. "And what are you, really?" For the first time she rose to her feet. She moved with grace, silent as smoke. Now standing, she was taller than before, closer to a human child of 10 or 11, though her face still held the strange, delicate features of something not human. She walked slowly toward him. Her glow made the shadows around her stretch long across the walls. When she stopped just a few feet away, she whispered the truth. "I am Seed." The man frowned. "Seed?" She nodded. "My people? Plant seeds. We send them across stars. Tiny ones, small, easy to hide, but strong. We grow where we land. New world, new soil, new chance." The man's mouth went dry. She wasn't just a child. She was a seed of her people, a living start of something far greater. "You mean," he whispered, "you were sent here to grow your kind?" Her glowing eyes held his. "Yes, if I live, my people live again." The room felt smaller, tighter, as the weight of her words sank into him. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a beginning. But then a darker thought struck him. "And the hunters?" Her voice dropped low, almost a hiss. "They know what I am. They kill seeds, always. If we grow, they die. So they chase us forever." The man felt a cold wave run through his body. She wasn't just in danger. Her very existence meant war. If she grew, she would not be alone. Her kind would return, and the hunters would follow. The girl stepped closer still. Her glow was so bright now that her outline blurred. "You gave me milk," she said softly. "Now you know. You are part of this." He shook his head quickly. "No, I was only trying to help. I didn't know what you are." Her lips curved into that strange half-smile again. "Doesn't matter. Choice is gone. I drink, I change, I grow, and you are mine." The man took a shaky breath. "What happens when you finish growing?" Her gaze deepened, sharp as a blade. "Then you will see. Then all will see." A sudden sound outside broke the silence. A low hum like machinery far away. The man froze, listening. The girl's body went still, her glowing eyes narrowing. "They come," she whispered. The man's blood turned cold. "The hunters?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, they smell my growth. They never stop. They are close." He moved toward the door, his heart racing. "We need to hide." We need to— No, she said sharply, cutting him off. No hide. If I drink more, I can fight. I can end them. The man turned to her, fear flashing in his eyes. Fight? You're just a child. Her voice was cold now, steady and sure. Not child, seed, weapon, future. The man's stomach twisted. He could see it now. Her glow, her strange strength, her growing size. She was becoming something else entirely. Something powerful. Something dangerous, but outside the humming grew louder. Shadows shifted beyond the window. Whoever or whatever the hunters were, they were real. And they were here. The girl raised her empty bottle once more. Her eyes locked on his. More, she said. The man's hand trembled as he looked at the bottle, then at her glowing face. He didn't know what scared him more, what waited outside his house, or what was already inside. The hidden danger. The sound outside grew sharper. What was once a low hum now carried a pulse like a machine's heartbeat. It vibrated through the walls of the small house, faint but steady. The man stood frozen by the door, his breath caught in his throat. The girl's glowing eyes flicked toward the window, unblinking. Her body stiffened, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dark. They are here, she whispered. The man's skin prickled. He wanted to ask who they were, what kind of monsters chased her across the stars, but fear held his tongue. Instead, he reached over and turned off the light. The room fell into shadow, the only brightness coming from her soft glow. That glow made her easy to see, easy to track. His voice was tight when he spoke. Dim yourself. Can you do that? Her head tilted slightly. No, my body cannot hide. Too much energy now. The man cursed under his breath. His instincts screamed at him to throw her out to save himself, but something in her eyes stopped him. She didn't look like prey. She looked like something waiting to wake. He peeked through the curtain. Shapes moved in the street. At first they looked like shadows, but then he saw the outline of something sharp and metallic. Machines, four-legged, their bodies dark, their eyes red. They crept with purpose, scanning, sniffing the air like wolves on the hunt. His blood ran cold. What are they? He whispered. The girl's eyes never left the window. Hunters. The word made his chest tighten. These were no men in black suits. These were something else. Machines built for one task, to find and kill. He turned back to her. If they see you, what happens? Her answer was simple. I die. The man's heart thudded painfully. And if I give you more? Her gaze locked on his. I fight, I live. You live. The man shook his head. His mind raced. She had grown stronger with each sip of milk. If he gave her more, what would she become? Would she destroy the hunters? Or destroy him too? His fridge was nearly empty. Only half a carton of milk sat inside. He pictured pouring it into her bottle. Pictured her glowing brighter, taller, maybe powerful enough to tear those machines apart. But then he pictured something worse. Her glowing so much that nothing could stop her. A loud metallic scrape tore him from his thoughts. One of the hunters dragged its claws across the street, the sound shrieking against the silence. Then a beam of red light swept across the houses. He ducked down quickly. The girl didn't move. She stood still, watching, her glow brighter now as if the danger fed her. The beam passed, but it was too close. He knew they would find her soon. His chest tightened. He turned to her sharply. Tell me the truth. If I give you more milk, will you protect me or will you kill everything? Her eyes blinked once, slow. She raised the bottle. Both, the man froze. Her voice had no hesitation, no lie. She didn't see the difference between saving and destroying. To her, they were the same. Another metallic sound echoed outside. The hunters were moving closer, claws tapping against the pavement. The man stood, his hands shaking. He could run. He could leave her here and hope the hunters only wanted her. But deep inside he knew they would not stop at her. If they saw him with her, he would die too. He stepped into the kitchen. The fridge light spilled out as he pulled the last carton of milk. He stared at it, his mind split in two. Behind him, the girl whispered, "Choose." He looked back. Her small figure glowed brighter than ever, her silver hair shining like fire. She looked nothing like the weak child he had let in. She looked like a storm waiting for a spark. "Choose now," she said again. The sound outside grew louder. A red beam passed over the window again, this time stopping, holding steady. The hunters had found the glow. The man's heart pounded. Sweat rolled down his neck. He could almost hear the claws scraping against his door. Finally, he poured the milk into her bottle. His hands trembled so hard that drops spilled on the floor. He shoved the bottle into her hands. She drank. The effect was instant. Her glow flared, flooding the room with white light. The walls shook, the lamps flickered violently, and the air itself seemed to buzz with energy. The man staggered back, shielding his eyes. When the glow softened, he lowered his arm. She stood taller now, her thin frame stretched into something sharper, her silver hair floating slightly, as if gravity no longer held her. Her glowing eyes locked onto the door. "They are here," she said calmly. A deep, metallic thud shook the house as claws struck the wood. The man's stomach dropped. His home was no longer safe. He stood trapped between two dangers, the machines outside, and the glowing seat of power standing inside, and for the first time that night he wondered which one was worse. The choice. The door shook under the hunter's weight. Each strike rattled the frame, dust falling from the ceiling. The man's heart raced with every blow. He knew the wood would not last. The alien girl stood in the center of the room, her glow spreading across the walls. She no longer looked small. She no longer looked helpless. Her body stretched taller, her hair floated as if stirred by unseen wind, and her eyes burned with cold fire. The hunters outside scraped and clawed, their red lights flashing through the cracks of the window. They were close. Too close. The girl turned her glowing face toward him. Her bottle hung empty at her side. "More," she said. The man's throat tightened. His fridge was empty. There was no more milk. I don't have any left," he whispered. Her glowing eyes narrowed. For a moment silence pressed heavy between them. Then she tilted her head, her silver hair spilling down. "Then you must choose." The door shuddered again, a loud crack running through the wood. Outside, the hunters hissed in mechanical voices, their steps circling the house. The man forced himself to speak. "Choose what?" Her voice was soft but sharp like glass.
"Give me more."
"Or give me nothing. If I grow, I fight. If I stay small, I die. And you die with me." His hands clenched into fists. He could not deny the truth. If she faced the hunters weak, they would tear through both of them. But if he fed her more, if she grew stronger, she might not stop at the hunters. "What if you become something worse?" he asked, his voice shaking. "What if you lose control? What if you turn on me?" Her eyes glowed brighter. "Then you die later, not now." The words made his stomach twist. She was honest. Too honest. She wasn't promising safety. She was offering only a delay. Another slam at the door. The wood splintered. A sharp claw punched through, dragging down with a shriek. The hunters were almost inside. The man's chest burned with fear. He had seconds. Seconds to decide. The girl stepped closer, her glow lighting his face. "Listen," she whispered. "The hunters kill me. They kill seeds, always. If I die, my people die. If I live, we live again. I am not only for me, I am future." Her words sank deep. She wasn't just asking for survival. She was asking him to take sides. To stand with her people against hers enemies. The door shook again, louder. A crack spread across the wood. The man's body trembled. His house, his quiet life, everything he knew, it was already gone. All that remained was this moment. He swallowed hard. "And if I help you grow, what am I to you?" She raised her empty bottle, her eyes never leaving his. "Mine." The word echoed like a chain wrapping around his neck. Another claw burst through the door. Red light streamed into the room. The man's breath came fast and shallow. He thought of running. He thought of hiding. But there was no escape. In the corner of the room, a single half glass of milk sat on the table. Leftover from when he had poured earlier. His eyes locked on it, so did hers. The glow in her body flared, pulsing like a heartbeat. She didn't move toward the glass. She didn't beg. She waited, waiting for him to choose. The man's chest tightened until it hurt. He stepped forward, grabbed the glass with shaking hands, and held it out. Her small fingers closed around it. She raised it to her lips and drank. The change was instant. Her body blazed with light, brighter than before. The air hummed with energy. The lamps burst, glass raining down. The wood floor beneath her feet glowed faintly, cracks of white light spreading like veins. The man staggered back, shielding his eyes. When the glow dimmed, she stood taller. Her frame stretched like a young woman now, her silver hair wild around her, her glowing eyes burning brighter than the hunter's red lights. The door cracked fully open. One hunter pushed its head through, its metal jaws wide. The girl turned, raising one glowing hand. A sharp burst of white light shot from her palm. It struck the hunter's head and the machine exploded into shards of metal and fire. The man gasped. The girl lowered her hand, her glowing eyes narrowing. "More will come," she said. The ground shook as the other hunter slammed against the house, claws digging, beams searching. The man stood trembling. His house was already breaking apart, his life already shattered. And yet he had chosen. He had given her more. Now he would have to live with what she became. The girl turned back to him, her glow spilling across his face. She stepped close, her voice low. "You chose me. Now I choose you." The words sent a shiver down his spine. He didn't know what her choice meant. Protection? Bondage? Something worse? But outside the hunters roared, and inside the girl's power burned brighter. The choice was made. There was no turning back. The twist ending. The house trembled as the hunters struck again. Metal claws scraped against the broken door. Red beams slicing through the smoke of shattered lamps. The man pressed himself against the wall, his chest heaving. His home was no longer his. It was a battlefield. In the center of the room, the alien girl stood tall now, glowing brighter than fire. She no longer looked like the small lost child who had whispered for milk. Her frame was sharp, her silver hair wild, her glowing eyes burning with power. She raised her hand again. White light pulsed from her palm and tore through the door. Another hunter exploded, its body crashing into the street in sparks and flames. The man shielded his face from the blast. When he looked back, she was already turning to the window. More hunters waited outside. Their red beams swept across the street, their claws cutting deep into the ground. There were too many. The man's stomach knotted. "We can't fight them all," he shouted. The girl's glowing eyes turned to him. "I can." Her voice was calm, steady, as if the danger meant nothing. "But at what cost?" He cried, his voice cracked. "You'll burn everything." "You'll burn me too!" Her expression softened for the first time. She stepped closer, her glow bathing his face in pale light. "No," she whispered. "You gave me milk. You are mine. I protect what is mine." The words chilled him. They were a promise, but also a claim. Another crash shook the wall. A hunter burst through, its metal jaws snapping. The girl moved faster than his eyes could follow. Her hand shot forward and a beam of light split the machine apart. Shards of glowing metal rained across the floor. The man stumbled back, his ears ringing. She turned again, eyes flashing. "Stay here," she ordered. Before he could answer, she stepped to the broken door. Her body flared with light, brighter than any lamp. And then she was gone, out into the night, out into the chaos. The man stumbled forward, gripping the edge of the door frame. What he saw made his breath stop. The street glowed white under her power. Hunters surrounded her, 5, maybe 6, their red beams flashing wildly. She moved among them like lightning, her hands blazing, her silver hair flying. Each strike from her hand sent metal flying, each step shook the ground. One by one, the hunters fell, their bodies sparking in the dark. But with each kill, her glow grew brighter, harsher. The air itself seemed to tremble under her light. The man's eyes widened. She wasn't just fighting. She was changing again. Her frame stretched taller still, her glow burning hotter until the night sky above lit up as if it were day. She screamed, a sound that was not human, and a shockwave of light burst out from her body. The hunters shattered in an instant. Their broken parts littered the street, smoking and sparking. Then silence. The man stood frozen in the doorway, his heart pounding. His street, once quiet, was now a graveyard of twisted machines, and in the center of it all stood the girl. But she was no longer small, no longer fragile. She towered now, taller than him, her body shining with raw power. Her glowing eyes turned back to him. For a long moment, neither moved. Finally, she walked back toward him, her steps silent but heavy with presence. She stopped in front of him, her glow so close it burned his skin. "You see?" she whispered. "I fight, I live. You live." His mouth went dry. He nodded slowly. "Yes, you saved me." Her lips curved into that strange half-smile again. She leaned closer, her glowing face inches from his. "But now," she whispered, her voice soft as a secret, "I want more than milk." The man froze. "What do you mean?" Her hand lifted, glowing fingers brushing lightly against his chest. The touch sent a shock through him, not painful but heavy, like a chain wrapping tighter around his heart. "You fed me. she said. You gave me life. Now you are part of me. You are mine. His chest rose and fell quickly. Her words were simple, but her eyes told the truth. She wasn't just asking. She wasn't just claiming. She was binding him to her in a way he couldn't escape. He swallowed hard. What happens now? Her glowing smile widened. Now, we grow. Behind her, the hunter's body still smoked. The night air hummed with the aftershock of her power. Somewhere beyond the horizon, more would come. He knew it. She knew it. But as she stood there, glowing and unshaken, he realized the hunters were no longer his greatest fear. The greatest danger was the girl he had chosen to feed. And now, whether he liked it or not, he belonged to her. The tiny alien girl who had once only wanted milk, now wanted him too.